We're going to see what we can get done today. Going to run you guys through what's happening today. And I'll show you the cylinder heads, some of the stuff that we had done there over at Steve Morris. And yeah, we'll just get moving on this, keep going, and then eventually we'll get it on that dyno. But first things first, we got to keep assembling. So the timing cover is installed. That's not the hard part by any means, but this is a closed two-piece timing cover. And the reason why I always use these ones, and I like them so much if I'm not running a belt drive, is because of this reason right here, is being able to get to the camshaft. Now, there's a two-part to this. One, and this doesn't concern me at this point because I adjust my cam timing differently. If you watch the video, I showed you where. But for some people, they can do the adjustments here in the camshaft, and they can actually clock it inside the camshaft. So you can pull this off, get to it that way. For me, it's the little cam button right there that makes this super, super easy. I'm going to show you why. But the reason is, if you run a normal timing cover, there are so many times that you're grinding down the timing cover and you're trying to get the cam button to fit. You're trying to take measurements from the mounting surface of this to holding the cam button in with your finger and trying to measure across and trying to... This makes it so much simpler. Let me show you why. All right, so this is why. This little booger right here, what will you do is you take this little Allen screw out. This is going to lock us in later on. Now inside here, if you look, there is a little set screw. What that screw does is we can take this and we can actually turn it out. Now if you see the gap that I got in there? It's going to turn it out. So I take that set screw or I take the cam button, mount this plate on. It's going to start fully locked in right there to where there's no gap. Then what you're going to do is you're just going to keep bringing this out, bringing it out, bringing it out, bringing it out till it touches the camshaft. As soon as it touches, then you're going to back it off 1/8 of a turn, and that's going to roughly be about 1 to 3 thousandths of an inch. And you have to think with steel motor, aluminum plate. This is going to expand with heat, so it's going to make up for that. We're just getting it to float a little bit because we do not want to have just constant pressure against the camshaft, because the little roller bearing behind the camshaft gear, for your timing chain, well, it's going to start to wear on that. We're pushing against the actual cam plate that's on the back of the motor. You're just loading against the camshaft. We don't want to do that. That's why you're grinding down the covers with a solid one-piece cover. That's what makes this really, really nice. So let's put it on the motor, and I'm just going to show you how simple it is to hook this up. Now, before you put this in, there is a little O-ring that you can see that you have to put on before you even start. I always put this going towards the top. So let's get this bad boy in. We'll make sure I'm all the way tight there. Okay. So now we're in there. Let's get our screws in. Oh, I don't need the screwdriver right now. There we go. Just button it up. Now with these, we're not reefing these down. Keep in mind, you're going into aluminum, plus there's an O-ring. You don't have to crank it down as hard as you can. We don't want to rip the threads of the aluminum out. So we're not going crazy, guys. Okay, so now getting that in. Now we're going to set the cam button. So I'm just going to keep turning it till I feel it touch. Boom, right there. She just touched. Just going to double check this. Yep. So right there, I'm touching now. That's at about, say, 2 o'clock. So I am just going to go back to about, say, 12 or 11-ish. Right there. Just going to double check one more time. 2 o'clock. Yep. So between, say, 12 and 11, that's about an eighth of a turn. That's it. You're done. You're finished. Now we put the lock. Oh, get in there. This is going to lock it into place where she ain't going to move. And that's it. We're done. That's the whole thing. Now, if you guys are fiddling around with, here, let me turn you around here. Now, if you guys are messing around with a normal timing cover, how long that just took me was all of a couple of minutes. You're going to spend, I don't know, 45 minutes grinding down your timing cover, trying to get the button right, or maybe even grinding the button down a little bit. Oops, I went too far. Now I'm going to put these little washers, inside the camshaft and put the button on there and fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. Or you can do this. This makes it perfect. It's dead on. That cam's got a little bit of movement, a little bit of float in it. That's why this is worth it. It's just worth that peace of mind alone for me, to where it's done. I can move on to the next thing. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, motor's flipped over. We're now going to do the oiling system on this thing. Now, this is about the best oiling system that you're pretty much going to get that's a wet sump system. This consists of a Melling billet pump. If you guys want a part number, it is, let me double check here, 10070-800SS. Now, with this, I also installed the extra 10 psi spring in it. Reasons why I like the billet pumps is the tolerances are much, much tighter. So when we start going up at high RPM, now I'm guessing right now, we don't know until the dyno happens, but this thing's probably going to be spinning 75, 7600 RPM. So shifting it, I'm going to be at least in the mid to upper 7,000. So say from 75 to 7,800, somewhere in there is where I'm going to shift this motor at. With that type of RPM, a lot of times, like the Melling, what is it, the M55HV, the high volume pump, great pump, but you always notice, like on the dyno or stuff like that, they just kind of fall off. They just start to dwindle away a little bit. These, you don't have to worry about just that influx. It just stays perfect. You spend the money, but these pumps, plus the fact that I want to be able to push more than, say, 70 pounds, there's so many times that I fight with those pumps, a Moroso pump, to produce more than, say, 70, 75 PSI. And when I'm spinning this thing to 7,500, 8,000 RPM, for those of you who don't know, every 1,000 RPM, I want 10 PSI. That's just being safe. So if I'm spinning 8 grand, I want 80 PSI. This pump will get me there. So we got that Melling pump, and then on top of it, I end up having this absolutely kick-ass custom-built Steph pan. This has got all the bells and whistles to it. It's a full kick-out on the side, trap door, windage tray, crank scraper. This is as good as it gets. Plus, if you see the side shot of this, this gives me an extra quart. You can see how big this is right here. This is actually out in front. I believe it's almost 2 inches more. So if you had a stock crossmember Camaro, you wouldn't be able to run this pan. But I've chopped my crossmember up. I can run this pan. First, we are going to check the oil pump. Now, I am not going off of these little tabs. That's not where it's pulling from. It's actually pulling from right there. Okay, so that's where I'm measuring. I am not measuring off of here. Okay, so measuring off of here, flat, off the oil pan maintenance surface, I am at, about 7 11/16. Huh. Now this pump is supposed to be specifically designed for an 8-inch pan. Obviously, if your pan's 8 inches away, they're trying to make up for it within this. So 7 11/16 there. And then on this side, we're making sure it's even, and it's not. So that would be 7 and a little more than 3/4, 13/16. So now I know I'm within that area. Now let's go to the pan. Now the pan's turn. So we're going to run flat edge, straight across, and we're going to just go from the bottom of the pan up and measure. So that's where I'm going to be looking, but I'm going over the camera. So we are at about 7 7/8. Yep. No, we're just up above that. About 7 15/16. I was at 7 11/16, 7 13/16. So the pump is just slightly tipped, about 1/8 of an inch. I double checked the old man's. Like I said, this is exactly the same as mine. On the pan, I'm at 7 15/16. So I would be roughly 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. Now, what a lot of people forget to do, they're like, man, I'm gold. I'm perfectly fine. Everything's great. Everything's, just peachy. Okay, well, what you have to do is measure out your gasket thickness. Now, this is a Felpro one-piece gasket. I've already gone through and done it. This is 140 thousandths thick. So it's crushing this down to where it hits the bare metal. And then at that point, it's not going to crush anymore. That's what you do when you put your pan on. So add 140 to it. So that 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch, add a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch. So we're 1/4 of an inch on one side. We're just a smidge over 3/8 of an inch on the other. From that little time lapse, it probably looked like, oh man, that went on really smooth and really easy. Let me say this. Holy cow. I think I invented swear words that haven't even been invented before. Woo! Oh, let me show you one thing that I had to do. I had to grind that sucker down to get it to fit. That's the only way I could use one of these. If I used a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch drive, good luck. It's not going to fit. What am I talking about? Fitting in these holes. That guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. Because straight down, we're bolting there, 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 and there. This does not bolt together like a normal oil pan. You can see. That's it. That's all that bolts it together. And I just got back from Ace Hardware. They didn't give me long enough bolts. These are a 1/2 inch longer. Those are 1 1/2. What they gave me didn't even touch. So after I already siliconed my 4 corners, and I only do it on the block side. I don't do it on the pan side, but I do it on the block side. That normally seals up pretty good for me. That was yesterday. Obviously, I'm in a different color shirt today. I'm green. And so I came and I tightened those down, and I was fighting with those 4 that I showed you, and I just couldn't get a socket in there. So I ground the socket down. Then, that's why I have these magnets here. I had to sit inside there and fish that socket out on that guy and on that guy. It probably took me in total, this is the next day, but in total, it probably took me, if I had everything here, a 1/2 hour to bolt this pan down. 1/2 hour to 45 minutes to bolt that pan down. That is what I was grinding. It's all to be able to get this guy to actually fit on. I was hitting my ends of the nut portion right there. So now, if I can get it to actually go in, come on, come on. Whoop, whoop. There we go. That was only about a 50th try. But now you can see how close I am to right there. That's what I was fighting. I was trying to get that to go in. All right, the oil cooler lines are on the motor. Those are on for good. All siliconed up. Well, not siliconed up. Teflon taped up. I was going to show you this. On the remote oil filter here, I did some modifications internally on this guy. And all I did was I opened these areas up. Originally, that opening here, if that's 250 thou, let's say that's a quarter of an inch, it was probably like 150. It was a little more than an eighth of an inch, and that's all that goes back. This is your inlet, this is your outlet going to your remote oil filter. Again, if you're restricting the flow, you're only going to be able to get so much going through there. So I opened this up just with a porting bit on a drill, like this, and I just used the thickness of the porting bit, which is a quarter of an inch. So I basically opened this up, let's just say another 100 thousandths, possibly a little bit more. Where the sharp edges were, I just rounded them here, so they're not coming out like this and then coming out like this. They're more rounded, so you get a better idea. Same thing inside here. You can see where I rounded this edge through here, and I opened it up. Same thing on the corner edges, deep down inside there. I opened that up just to get better oil flow. Do you have to do it? Probably not, but if you look through, there's your restriction. You're automatically, you know, now I got about 2/3 of it going in, and then this guy, you can see you're blocking off. So I'm trying to get that to actually have just better oil flow. So if you guys are running these, might just be worth spending an extra 5 minutes, clean it out, you're ready to rock and roll. So that is going to be the end of today for me. I'm going to get ready and go home here, but I am happy that the short block's together, cam's degreed in, oil pan finally on, that pain in the butt. Anyways, next episode we're going to get the cylinder heads on, long block together, and just get it that much closer. So I hope you guys kind of enjoy, I wouldn't call it a series, but the build-up of the 1800 horsepower Procharged combination, yes. Sorry guys, it's been a long day. That pan really ticked me off. So anyways, thanks again you guys for sticking around. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to check out some more on the channel and hit me down in those comments and let me know how you guys are liking the channel, what maybe you'd like to see, if you want to see a little bit more of the go-kart that William's working on, or maybe a little more of Schuler's car, or perhaps the Firebird, the Redbird here that the old man's got. It's been a long day, you guys. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. But if you guys want to see some more on that, I know I've been kind of focusing on Black Pearl and the buildup of this because I'm excited. But if you guys would like to see more, let me know what you'd like to see. So anyways, till we meet again, my friends, have a good one.